Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving into a topic that hits close to home for so many of us: marriage. Specifically, marriage for women in today's world. You sent over that YouTube video, the one exploring the ins and outs of marriage. And honestly, I have to say, it really got me thinking. Luckily, we have our expert here to help us unpack it all.
Yeah, it really does make you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What struck me was how this seemingly simple question, like, should I get married or not,
Yeah.
it just opens up this whole Pandora's box of other really complicated issues. We're talking about cultural expectations, the financial realities of today, and really, what do women truly want in their lives?
Okay, so let's jump right in. The video centers around Lucy, a young woman who's actually facing this very decision. And I think it's so relatable because, let's be honest, who hasn't felt that pressure? That pressure to balance what your family expects, what society might expect of you, versus what you actually picture for your own future.
It's such a universal struggle, isn't it? And Lucy's story, it really brings to light how much those societal norms, they can sometimes clash so hard with what someone actually dreams of.
Yeah.
It really underlines that for so many women, marriage isn't this simple yes or no to a proposal. It's this whole journey of trying to figure out these really complicated expectations and desires.
Absolutely. And you know what I really appreciate about this video? It doesn't try to sugarcoat anything. It's not painting this fairy tale ending of marriage. And it's also not making it out to be like this relationship ruining life sentence. Instead, it lays it all out there, the good, the bad, and even the financially complicated parts, which I really appreciate.
Yeah, for sure. Like, for example, they talked about how statistically married couples, they just have twice the assets, like literally twice the assets of people who are single or divorced. And that really highlights how marriage can lead to more financial stability.
Okay, so get this, Aaron. I actually paused the video on that statistic because I was like, wait, what? Married couples having double the assets. That just blew my mind. Why is that? Like, what's the reason behind that?
That is a great question. And the answer, well, it's complicated. Part of it definitely comes down to just having those shared resources and, even reduced living costs when you're sharing things. But there's also the fact that, legally speaking, the system is often set up in a way that benefits married couples. Think about tax advantages, inheritance laws. It's even easier to get approved for things like loans when you're married. All of those factors together, they really can add up to a major financial advantage in the long run.
Wow, that makes so much sense when you break it down like that. So it's not even just about love and commitment. There's like a whole economic side to marriage that I never really thought about. But then the video, it takes this interesting turn. It doesn't just stop at that happy picture of financial security, does it?
Exactly. It's a good reminder that, unfortunately, finances can be a double-edged sword. Because as much as marriage can bring financial benefits, financial stress is also one of the leading causes of divorce. So yes, marriage might offer some economic advantages, but also means that couples have to be really good at managing their money together. And let's face it, that can lead to conflict if you're not careful about how you handle it.
Which actually leads us perfectly into another major theme that the video tackles: women, work, and that never-ending struggle to find balance. That whole debate about whether women should continue working after they get married. It just feels like such a loaded question.
It really is. And it's a question that's so deeply woven into how societal expectations are changing. What I found so fascinating was how the video really challenges those traditional views by bringing up the reality that women can and do contribute economically to their families. It's almost like there's this subtle shift happening. Instead of seeing marriage as the ultimate goal, it's more like viewing it as one chapter in this much bigger, richer story, a story where women can have fulfilling careers and go after those professional goals while also having a fulfilling personal life.
And it's not even just about the financial aspect of it either. It's about recognizing that women have ambitions and dreams that go beyond just the home. Like in the video when Lucy talks about wanting to be a doctor. It really resonated with me, that need for women to feel like they have control over their careers, their futures.
Absolutely. And I think it speaks to this larger shift we're seeing in how people view marriage. It's less about fitting into these roles that society has sort of laid out for us, and more about finding a partnership that truly supports both people. Like, how can we both grow and achieve our full potential together?
That's such a good way to put it. And I love that the video doesn't shy away from the challenges of actually finding that balance. It talks about the emotional side of things too, like finding a partner who not only respects your dreams, but actually encourages you to chase after them, even when things get messy or life gets complicated.
Yes. It emphasized how important it is to have shared values in a relationship
Mm-hmm.
and that deep emotional connection as the bedrock,
Mm.
because that's what helped you weather the storms, you know.
Right.
And it also got me thinking about how crucial communication is in a marriage. Like really being able to have those honest conversations, even when they're difficult, about what you each need, what you expect from the relationship.
Which is exactly why Lucy's story is so captivating, right? She's not just going through the motions, checking off boxes on a pros and cons list. This is a decision that will literally shape her entire life. It's about so much more than just, yes, I'll marry you.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
I really admire that the video doesn't try to push any kind of agenda. Like, it's not saying marriage is the be-all and end-all, but it's not saying it's terrible either.
Yeah.
It acknowledges that there's no right or wrong answer here.
It's so refreshing because in the real world, things are never black and white. There's so much nuance. And the video gets that. It recognizes that everyone's experience with marriage is different. It's shaped by their own unique circumstances, their values, even their cultural background, which got me thinking.
Oh, I know exactly where you're going with this.
I
I had that exact same thought while watching it.
Right, like the video focuses on one specific cultural context. But how do these conversations around marriage and a woman's place, how do those play out in different parts of the world?
It's fascinating, isn't it? It reminds us that what we see in the video, while it's relatable, it's really just one small piece of a much bigger, more complex picture.
Totally. It's like that video opened this door to a much wider global conversation. It made me wonder about how those cultural norms and societal pressures, and then also those individual hopes and dreams, how those all intersect in different corners of the world.
It's amazing, isn't it? It highlights how something as universal as marriage can be experienced in so many different ways.
It's like this one YouTube video opened up this whole Pandora's box of questions about marriage, about what society expects, about what it even means to be a woman in the world today.
It really does. And honestly, I think it just underscores how important it is to be having these kinds of conversations, even, or maybe especially, when we know there aren't easy answers.
100%, because it's not about finding the right answer. It's about understanding all the different factors, all the perspectives that come into play, and how those shape each individual's experience.
Exactly. And I think that's a really important point for our listeners to take away from today's deep dive. This wasn't about telling anyone whether marriage is right or wrong for them. It was about really looking at the different realities of marriage, especially for women.
Exactly. We talked about the legal and financial side, the cultural expectations people have, the impact that can have on your career, the importance of a strong emotional connection. It's a lot to think about.
It is. And I think it highlights the fact that there's no one right way to approach these decisions. What really matters is that there's open and honest communication, mutual respect, and a deep understanding of what you value most in life.
Perfectly said. Ultimately, it's about making informed choices. Choices that feel right for you, whatever those may be.
I couldn't agree more. And, sometimes just thinking about these questions, engaging with these different ideas, that in itself can be so valuable. It can help you figure out what you really want, challenge those assumptions you might have, and approach these big life decisions with more clarity.
Absolutely. It's all about broadening our understanding, right? Which is what the deep dive is all about.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of marriage and women in today's world, I want to leave you with one final thought to ponder. The video we discussed focused on a particular cultural perspective, but how do these dynamics change when we look at different cultures and societies around the world? What unique challenges and triumphs do women face in those different contexts?
Now, that is a question worthy of its own deep dive.
It's amazing how one video can spark so many thoughts, right?
It really is.
It's like we peeled back all these layers on what seems like such a simple question on the surface. Should I get married? But we ended up uncovering this whole web of cultural expectations, financial realities, personal dreams.
It just goes to show you the power of really diving deep, like we do here.
Right.
We went beyond just summarizing what the video said. We explored the why behind the what.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes it so interesting for our listeners, too. It's not just about taking in information. It's about understanding the nuances, the complexities.
Absolutely. And speaking of nuance, I think it's important to reiterate that we weren't trying to sway anyone one way or the other about marriage.
Right. We're not here to give advice or tell anyone what's right for them.
Exactly. Because at the end of the day, getting married or not, it's a deeply personal choice. It depends on your own circumstances, your values, your goals. What works for one person might not work for someone else, and that's okay.
That's such a good point. There's no right answer for everyone. And I think that's something Lucy grapples with in the video, too. It's not about finding this perfect solution in a book somewhere. It's about making a choice that feels right for you based on all the information you have.
Exactly. And sometimes just taking the time to really think things through, to examine your own beliefs like we've done today, that can be incredibly helpful in itself.
It can help you get clarity on what's important to you. So, as we wrap up this deep dive on marriage and women in today's world, I'd like to leave you with this. The video we talked about focused on one specific culture. But imagine if we took this conversation global. How do these dynamics change when we consider different cultures, different traditions, different ways of life around the world?
Now, that is a question I'd love to explore further.
Right. It's something to think about. And for our listeners, if this sparked your curiosity, don't stop here. Do some more research, talk to your friends, your family, because expanding our understanding of these complex topics, that's a journey, not a destination. Join us next time as we take another deep dive into a new topic, uncover hidden insights, and as always, keep those brains engaged.